change of institutions to, you know, like multiple renewals. But yeah, so it definitely is, it's not like a program that, you know, maybe they make a few payments for you. Like they will pay the full amount, assuming that the program sticks around. That's I'll also just like preface with like right now we are in a shutdown, so there's no one in the LRP office to help us with this, which makes it a little bit different. We're assuming the deadline is still November 20th. So everyone's kind of moving forward with that. And we don't know what programs and services are on the chopping block. LRP very well could be on the chopping block. My assumption is that if you get an award, that they will see through the award, but that's not guaranteed either. So, but the other good thing that I'll say about LRP, and then I'll have everyone kind of tell me a little bit about where you're at so that we can like personalize it because we have a small enough group. But the good thing about LRP is it's really not wasted work putting an LRP application together because you can use the exact proposal from your LRP towards your next grant proposal because they're not funding the research. They're just funding your loans payments. So the research proposal should go for other research work. And I'll get more into that in a second. But I think just to get started, we have a small enough group. If you can tell me like where you're at in the process, it'd be helpful to personalize it. If you're a first time submission, if you're a renewal, if you're doing a change of institution, what LRP type are you working on? Or if you're just like, I've heard of LRP, but I don't know where to start or what it is I'm looking for, or like, I'm kind of just getting started, that'd be fine too. But just to make sure that I cover the information that you're most interested in hearing. Shanting, do you think you could go first? You're at the top of my screen.
Sorry, I got a little distracted by email.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
can you repeat your question?
Oh, sorry.
I'm more
Just
than happy to.
what are you thinking about LRP? What would be helpful to talk about for LRP? Where are you at in the
Oh, oh yes. I don't think I will apply, but I just want to get whatever information I can so I can support my students or
Okay.
people that I know. So I'm here to learn.
Okay, great. That's good to know too. And that like what is the program so that you can be a
Yeah.
sponsor. Okay, good. Okay, Ana Cecilia.
Same for me. I unmuted because it's the same case. I just want to learn a little bit more about them so that I can support students.
Okay, great. Jennifer?
Yeah, I had wanted to get an application in this year. And Bree, this is going to be news because it's been kind of evolving since I got back from MIWI. But I have to have back surgery. So I have just been dealing with a lot of other things. And so my day-to-day is just getting through what I have to right now. So my intent is if the program still exists next year, then I'd like to do it. So yeah, that's where I'm
Okay.
at.
Prashant?
Sorry, I was just searching for my cursor. I have 3 screens going on. So I am in the same boat as Shanting. I want to know, this is something new to me, so I want to know everything from scratch. Hoping
Okay.
to know at least. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and Tiffany.
Hey, good morning, y'all. I applied last year and I had racism all through my application, so it didn't go well. I'm applying this year, and so I think information-wise, I love that I came in when y'all were talking about like, is there even still a thing to apply to? Because that was definitely a question mark that I had. So I would love to hear any sort of like insight on the politics, and then relatedly, like how I can just any insight on the key places to scrub diversity and like just to like any insight on how to present it in a way that could fly under the radar. I would appreciate that conversation as well.
Yeah, okay. And Crystal, is there anything in particular related to LRP that you want to make sure we go over?
Oh my gosh. So I guess similar to Tiffany, so I applied last year for a renewal. The first time I went through, definitely in the title, abstract, everything had racial discrimination, Black women, all the words. And so for the renewal, I don't even think it was renewed. I mean, I don't even think it was reviewed. And so that same project was also in process of being funded through a Courage Fellowship program. And so while the funding was taken away, it was reinstated. And so they reached back out to me a couple of weeks ago, like, yeah, we can fund it, but we need you to change your title and to go through and change the abstract. And so I'm wanting to submit that same work for LRP. So just really figuring out, yeah, what adjustments I need to make there, including the focus population. And
Okay.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Yeah. So, and I think last year's cycle was weird in that. So, and so I've had writing groups for LRP for the last 6 years. So I've also keep a spreadsheet of everyone I've worked with on LRPs and how many have gotten funded and renewed and everything. And it's been about 25 people that total. So I feel like I gather experiences from everyone. And I did kind of like check back with everyone last year on what happened, because most of us are working in cultural adaptations or racism discrimination. And it was a mixed bag. So some of us got through with our renewals, even when they had like some things in it, and then some didn't. So I had a friend that had one that had gotten to the financial checks, and then she had moved institutions and things went wrong, that was looking at trans health, and then submitted the same proposal the next year, and it didn't go through. So but then mine and a few other people that were looking at cultural adaptations among Latinos seemed to not have an issue with it. So it is kind of a mixed bag. But here, I'll start with the slides, and then but stop me as we go for questions or discussions or things that would be helpful to talk about. So let me see. And then, oh wait, I just saw a chat come in. Okay, so the REACH program is still listed as one of the mechanisms. So, and I'll show on the website, it is still listed as one of them. But I mean, the other thing is I'll show the website and keep everyone updated on the website of like changes that are coming out. Nothing's coming out right now because they're closed, like there's no one there. But there is a page that has all the updates as updates happen, as things get canceled, as instructions change, things like that. And then also just want to mention that I adapted these slides last year. I worked on them with Juan, so they're similar to the ones that we worked on last year. So I'll briefly just go over my experience to what can be applicable to any of you or your students. And that I had my first application, and then I did a change of institution halfway through that award cycle. And then I did my renewal, and then I did another renewal, and then I did another change of institution. So I'm familiar with a lot of the different types of applications. If anyone's working on any of those applications, then I'm happy to share all of my materials. And that there is something slightly different for each part of that application. Kind of an overall things to do is I would just apply, and same thing, encourage your students or postdocs, not students. So students, you're only eligible after you have your terminal degree. So you do have to have a PhD. We'll go over eligibility in a minute. So your postdocs or early career, and it's actually you're eligible for at any stage of career. You don't have to be early career. So you can apply at the associate or full level. Like most of the time it's us early career that are applying because we're the ones like with the most debt, or like we haven't paid it down yet, but you're not disqualified if you're further into your career. The thing to know about that is that, and I'll say that in a minute when we get to knowing if you should go in as independent or mentored. If you are eligible to go in as mentored, go in as mentored, because when you are being evaluated as a mentored investigator, they are evaluating your potential and your trajectory. If you are going in as independent, they are evaluating your track record, right? So do you want to be evaluated on your potential to become an R01 investigator or your current track record of R01 investigation, right? So, I mean, if you have an R01, then you're an independent. If you do not have an R01, you are not. So try to stay in that mentored bubble as long as you can, unless you have the track record to back it up. But find examples of other LRPs that have been successful and follow them closely. This is not plagiarism. This is a template, right? Use the same language, obviously put your own research in there, but don't be creative. This is not a creative writing assignment. This is like a formula template so you follow a successful funded application and you use the same section headings, the same words, and put it into your application, like what your research is to your personal statement. Start the online application as early as possible. When you start the online application, you will get automated emails. In those automated emails is the link you send to your writers of where they submit their letters. Every year, people are like, I don't know how to find the link, or how do I send the link? And like, it was in that first email you got that you didn't pay attention to because it was an automated email. So pay attention to those, get that out early. You know, letter writers will be late, you know, so make sure they get it in early. Tell them, you know, it's due 2 days before it's actually due, whatever you have to do to make sure that you get those in on time. And give yourself enough time to get all of your sections done, send it out for peer review. Have enough time to send your specific aims and your biosketch to program officers, ideally from multiple ICs, and see who you get feedback from. Again, that's hard right now during the shutdown because they're not going to be replying. But for my first LRP, I wasn't sure which IC to go to and that I could submit to, oh, go ahead, Bree.
Oh, no, please finish your thought. I had a question on this exact point, so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I sent my specific aims and biosketch around to 4 different program officers because one of them I had my postdoc was funded through a TL2, which was through NCAT, so I sent it there. And then the research project that I was working on, my mentors R01 was through NIDDK, and then my research was most aligned with. So I sent it around everywhere. I had one program officer get back to me and say, I would not be a competitive applicant and there's no point in submitting my proposal. So I didn't submit to that institute. I still submitted it somewhere else and got it. But I had to send it around and see who thought I was a good applicant and liked my research and felt that it was in line. So send it to multiple places and see who replies. Okay, go ahead, Bree.
So this is something that is very distinct from when I applied 15 years ago to the situation now, but I cannot emphasize enough what Tara just said. They're different institutes. Not only do they have different priorities, they fund different versions of the LRP. So I don't think any of us are, well, not many of us are on this call are clinicians, but if you're an MD or an RN, for example, you have a whole different set of options available to you than those of us who are only have a research PhD. That's very different than how it was when I was applying. And this alignment with institutional priorities is now like a #1 issue. So I just want to emphasize what she said, and this idea that talking to different institutes, they do want to work with you. I think the program officers on these have been really helpful. The other thing I want to say before, because I'm going to have to jump off in a few minutes, is I reviewed for LRPs this past February to help bring goodness into the world and then karmically. Crystal, to your comment about sort of just like how to handle comments about diversity and things like this, we were literally told just like ignore that part of the application. Like everything I read had the word health equity in the title, like everything I read, you know, and so I don't know how you just sort of, I mean, now I think those were submitted in November 2024, and I was reviewing them in, you know, like March 2025. So, but the other thing I want to say about the review process is that this does not go to study section like a grant. So there are external reviewers like myself, but I just do it on my own and I submit it, and that's it. There's no conversation. There's no debate among the reviewers. You get multiple reviewers, so it's not just one person. But what that means is that you've got to be, I think you've got to be super crystal clear in your writing, because there's not going to be an opportunity, like when you're on study section, somebody might say, so how did they address this issue? And then the primary reviewer has to say, oh, actually, that's a great question. I don't know how they addressed it. Let me, you know what I mean? And there's conversation in the review process. That's not true with this type of thing. So I just want to, that is just like really golden advice here in terms of like, and I know it's really frustrating, like you're already like feeling beat down, and then, you know, to have to say, well, we're not interested in there, or like, but I think it sounds like, Tara, your experience is with people have been pretty direct, and again, my fellows experienced same sort of thing. Like she was sort of told, this is what it would take in order for it to be fundable by our institute. If you can make that change, sure, we're interested. If not, you know, it's not going to be possible.
Yeah. And similarly, so some of us were talking about why some proposals got through and some didn't. And a lot of it is like this review process of, and some of it is, so LRP again does not fund your research, but you have to be conducting research. So I think some of the fear was it's not going to be possible for you to do this research that you proposed. So we can't fund your LRP because you're not going to be able to do this research. So make really clear in your applications that your research is supported somehow, right? That mainly you need to really make sure that your time is supported because that's the most important thing. You have 50% time towards research and that you have the ability to do the project. So this is not proposed research. This is research that's going to happen whether you get the LRP or not. So making sure that the reviewers know that this is not on the chopping block, this is not going to get cut, this is actual research that's happening. Go ahead, Tiffany.
What are your thoughts on like how we thread the needle between saying like this work is absolutely going to happen and I have the skills to do this work versus like I have these training goals to build the skills to do this work? Like how, you know what I mean? Like how do you have thoughts on how to navigate that?
Yeah, so it's good that they need to be overlapped or aligned, right? And that your training goals should match your area of research, but you need to have research that you can be doing while you're building some skills for the next step. So it's kind of like you're already trained to do the research that you're proposing to do. And while you're doing it, you're getting skills that are going to help in the translational spectrum or enhance it somehow. Go ahead, Bree.
Just to add to that, I think this is a little bit of grantsmanship in general, which is, you know, the joke is like you write the grant to get paid to get the money for the work you already did. And so there is an element, it does need to be very clear. This is an ongoing project. This is how I'm going to be spending my time over the next 2 years. Yes, there might be some training there, but like what they are looking for is like 20 out, you know, what are you spending 20 hours a week doing, right? You know, and your mentor, when they certify your effort, that's what they're certifying. You spent 20 hours a week doing something related to your project here. So it should look a little bit, I know Tara started off by saying that this is not wasted writing, and I want to emphasize that point as well, because you can use this. I use my LRP as part of my K award. I'm sure Tara, like, I mean, this is exactly what you do in writing. But I would say having that, the way I would describe any training activities is that these are vehicles for the research. I would not have them be something fun to do, like, at least in the way that you were describing. It's not, you might still be doing that. Remember, your audience, what they are being asked to evaluate is your potential, but mostly about you, right? Your mentor, the strength of your mentor letters. Do you have a committed team that's going to be supporting you in your activity? But they are not actually giving you money to do anything. So it's this weird, it's a weird tension. So sort of really be emphasizing, and what the reason, okay, I'll stop there. Sorry.
I think the most important thing that if you understand this and you understand what LRP is the LRP like claim to fame, or I think the reason they keep getting funding to continue the program is, and I have it somewhere, I forget where it is. But individuals who receive an LRP are 50% more likely to receive the next NIH award. And that is a correlation, not a causation. I think it's actually reversed correlation the way it is. It's not that if you get an LRP, you're more likely to get the next award. It's those that are likely to get an LRP award, or likely to get an R01 are the ones that are getting their LRP. So you have to convince them that you are a future R01 investigator. And that's going to make you competitive for the LRP, because that's how they keep the program going. That's how they say the success of the program. So you need to show them that you are on the trajectory to getting that R01 someday, right? Which may mean getting a K01 first, or getting, or whatever that next application is, because for your first application and your renewal, they're checking to make sure you're still on that trajectory. So of the friends that I know that didn't get their renewal, it's because they somehow stepped out away from that trajectory, right? That they should have been a step closer to getting that R01. They should have been a step closer, and they didn't continue progressing towards what NIH would expect them to be progressing towards. So like whatever you're getting in your training plan, is working towards making you an independent investigator. Whatever mentors you're working with, they're putting you in line. They're going to become your co-Is. They're going to become, you know, they're getting you towards that next step. So I think if you keep that in mind in all of your application materials, all of your application materials are designed to give them the evidence they need to see that you are going to become an independent investigator. That's what I try to say. So these are the eligibility, and we could go through them if you're interested, but these are on there. The main, you need to have these points in your application as well, especially this 20 hours a week. It needs to be in your letter of support from your supervisor, that you have that, and it needs to be in your application a few times that you are committed to having this 20 hours a week, and that you have everything you need in your institution to support that. So if you're helping a postdoc or early career with their applications and you want to write a strong letter, make sure, and I have examples of letters that I wrote for my supervisor to sign that were very strong letters saying exactly that, like complimenting what a great startup package I have, all the materials that I have, reduced teaching load, how they're going to usher me into becoming an independent investigator, and that they're committed to protected time for research. Make sure you're hitting all of those notes in your application. So these are the types, as Bree was talking about earlier. And I actually do know somebody who got a clinical LRP that is not a clinician, but does research in a hospital setting. So that's not very common. Usually clinical are individuals with are clinicians that have some type of degree that makes them a clinician, but it's not technically like an inclusion criteria. So she had talked to a program officer, and the program officer thought it was a good fit for her, so she ended up doing it. But she was in a college of nursing doing nursing research, but she wasn't an RN. Otherwise, you know, the other categories are a bit more common for anyone with a PhD that's just doing research, that's not doing clinical work. So yeah, and I have some links in here, and we'll go to the website, and I'll walk you through the website looking at it as well. Mentored or independent, and mention that. I'll mention it again in just a minute. And then 3 to 5 letters of reference. If you're mentored, you need to have a letter from your mentors and supervisor. Sometimes mentor and supervisor are the same person, sometimes they're not. So it may end up taking up 2 letters, but you have to have it from, like, anyone mentioned in your application should be submitting a letter. And this isn't like the K01. The K01, you have like a mentor, co-mentor section, and then you have letters of support. You just have letters of support. You don't have like letters from your mentor in your application, just here. So be careful in how to use your letters best, but make sure you have at least one letter that's talking about institutional support. Go ahead, Tiffany.
How do you know if your mentor is your supervisor or not?
Okay, yeah, so I have a slide on that. Okay, so your mentor should be the person that is mentoring your research, like supervising your research project. And a lot of, as a postdoc, that's usually the same person, but sometimes as a faculty member, your supervisor is the person that's confirming that you have 50% protected time for research and that you're conducting research 50% of the time. So sometimes, like right now, my department chair is my supervisor, the one that's signing off on my hours, but not the person I'm conducting research with 50% of the time. So I write my mentor into my training plan, and my supervisor is my department chair. So it might be 2 different people. Sometimes it's the same person. If your research mentor feels qualified to sign off that you're conducting 50% research, then they can do that. If they feel like that's not really my job, that's like a department chair to say that you don't have too much teaching or whatever, then it might be different.
Can I just add to that? Because we actually have an issue with another situation that's come up with another MUI scholar that has an LRP where there is actually debate as to like who can actually approve the 20 hours that she's been working on research, and does it have to be funded and things. And so I would strongly advise. So I am the supervisor and the signer and the primary mentor for this other person that I've referred to, but I would strongly encourage that your supervisor, that is the person who's going to approve your hours, either be the chair or division chief of your area, so they can specifically be saying, yes, Tara has not, hasn't been, just 20 hours a week. She's been doing research. That's all. And it's related to this topic. I will also, or your primary mentor, somebody that you're actually working closely with on the research, but not somebody higher up. Like it should
Yeah.
not be like
Yeah.
a dean or something like that, because that's the situation that we're ending up with in this other situation, which this person's at a smaller institution and they're like, business official is like, I don't know what she's been doing. And I'm like, why is the business official part of this conversation? But it's because it's a smaller institution. I think she's one of the only people that's ever had one of these types of awards. So just, it needs to be somebody who you have a very easy way to get a hold of. So a chair, division chief, or your direct research mentor. I will also say, to your earlier comment, Tara, about like, are you on the road to an R01? I would encourage you to think about the primary mentor as either being somebody who's being able, especially if you've stayed at the same institution or you've been working with somebody for a while, think about getting somebody who's different, who's going to be able to say, this person is growing, this is now my new area of work, things like that. And then have your doctoral, for example, your dissertation person be able to just write a letter of support rather than be the primary mentor, because this was one of the situations we ran into with my fellow here, where I was her dissertation chair. She's also doing a fellowship here. So it's like, they're like, well, when is she ever going to fly on her own? And that needed to be really clear. That was a major issue that we had in our responding to the reviews. But I think it's a fair comment, So I would like, but if we'd known what a major issue it was going to be, we could have gotten ahead of it a little differently by structuring the award or the team, the supervisor differently than the mentor.
Yeah, so whoever is your supervisor, listed as your supervisor in your application, every 3 months, they're going to get an email where they have to go and click approve. So you also want it to be somebody that you're comfortable sending an email saying, because you also are notified that like they need to approve your hours. So you want it to be someone you're comfortable nudging and saying like, hey, you probably got an email from NIH to certify my hours, if you could go in and do that. Because if they don't do that, you don't get your payment, right? So like if it's like a dean and you don't want to be like emailing your dean to approve your hours. So try to have it somebody like close to you that can certify it. And then yeah, so I also have a comment here about like if your primary mentor is outside your institution, get a co-mentor or somebody that's inside your institution to also show that like growth and development. Check NIH Reporter to just see who at your institution has any NIH funding that like looks legit that you can work with. But you do have to start like building towards like expanding your network. In that because you need to show that you need training, but also you have to say like, why haven't you already gotten it? Right. So if you're still working with the same person that you did, like, why did they already train you in this? Why do you need more training from the same person? So you probably need to work with other people. So try to use it as a way to expand your network. Good. And then, yeah, so sometimes they're same person, but again, the supervisor really want to have a glowing letter from them about all the infrastructure support that you have, everything they're going to do to make you shine, right? And again, if you need examples of that, I'm happy to share those examples and templates of what a supervisor letter should look like versus what a research mentor letter should look like. Okay, so then this is again what I was mentioning earlier about mentored versus independent. So you're not really independent until you get an R01. And we've had multiple program officers tell us this, like if you don't have an R01, you're not really mentor or you're not really independent yet. So if you are currently planning on submitting an R01, I would still go in as mentored and use the R01 application and use your co-Is and MPIs as your mentors. Right. Like, so you can use the same research project. I would just shift it until you actually have the R01. You don't have a track record. So don't be evaluated on a track record that doesn't exist. If you currently have a K award, a K99, K23, K01, whatever it is, use your K01 proposal, whatever the next 2 years of the timeline is for your LRP. The project application sections. So you have, and I'll show you, there's online PDF of instructions. Read the instructions. Read the instructions. There's a PDF. It tells you every section, what should be in every section. Those instructions change every year, just slightly, but they are different. So you have to read the instructions every year. If you're just looking off of a funded proposal from last year, this year's instructions may be slightly different. So still go back and read the instructions. Your research activities is 8 pages. This includes your specific aims, research strategies, and references. References are part of the 8 pages. So everything has to fit in those 8 pages. So everything that would normally be in like a 13 pages of specific aims plus research strategy now needs to fit into 8. Research environment is 1, and the research environment similar to like a facilities and resources section. So you kind of want to go off of probably a funded example from someone in your department, but include your startup pack if you still have a startup package, include your startup package in the research environment. Research accomplishments is for your renewal. This one, and again, I'm happy to share my renewal proposals. And this is just to say, this is what I've done since my last LRP was approved. These are the goals that I met. These are the goals that I have going forward. This is how LRP has changed my life and why I need more time doing this. And, so like kind of this is what I've accomplished because of LRP. Like because of LRP, I don't have to teach in the summers to make more money to pay off my student loans. So because I have those extra 3 months to do research, I've been able to publish this many papers and apply for this grant. And now I'm continuing on that trajectory. I am 2 years closer to getting an R01 than I was last time you saw me. And here are things that are leading me on that trajectory. Again, making sure that you're staying in line, that you're getting closer. The career development plan is for independent. If we do have anyone that's submitting independent, we'll have to find somebody else because I've never submitted independent. I'm still mentored 6 years later and they're still accepting it as mentored. So interestingly, my KO1 reviewers told me that I was too far along in my career for a KO1, that I didn't need any more training and that I had enough funding to be independent. But my LRP was still fine. Like, yeah, you're still mentored. So it's kind of hit or miss, but I took the risk of doing it mentored again because I know they get funded more, and I don't want to be evaluated on my track record yet. I still want like that protected potential. Like I have the potential to become an R01 investigator. And then BioSketch, make sure you're using the correct format for BioSketch. BioSketch's instructions get updated like almost every year, sometimes twice a year, and you have to follow the right format. And your mentor's BioSketch need to be in the right format. So if they send you a BioSketch that's in last year's format, you'll have to edit or update it for them or something, but you don't want your application to get rejected because you used an old format or you accidentally had like a hyperlink in there and those aren't allowed. So, really follow the rules, make sure you have the correct BioSketch rules for it, BioSketch for the mentors, and then a personal statement. So that's the whole application. It's not that long, but it is very similar to other NIH grant proposals. So it's kind of a good starter for the next part of the grant. Okay, so I kind of went over this already. Okay, so some misunderstandings that happen with, and everyone please jump in if you have any questions or anything I'm talking about, or you want to go back to anything. So some of the misunderstandings that I've heard is people thinking that you need to have NIH funding to be eligible for the LRP. That's not true, but your research does have to be funded somehow. So it could be startup funds, it could be a small grant proposal, it could be using public data and you don't need a grant, or it could be that you just have your time supported, so you don't need money for participants, whatever it is. Go ahead, Tiffany.
So you have to be able to demonstrate that your research is funded through the 2 years of the LRP period?
Technically, yes. Although what they just like, they ask you just to say that, like they're not actually like if your grant expires or like whatever it is, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal in like getting it rejected. I've had a lot of people say that their grant was expiring before the LRP would even start. and
that's my situation, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know how to even.
Yeah, so so technically, yes, technically you're supposed to say that you have full funding to complete this project over the next 2 years. Really what they're most interested in is that you have funding for 50% of your time for those 2 years. So that's kind of the main thing. and then just, you know, have justification for what research you're going to be working on if this funding ends, or if this funding, like, just have like a plan A, plan B, and that whatever research you're proposing, you're going to have the time to work on it. And then if the research requires funds will be available to do it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm wondering what document is the appropriate place to talk about that.
Yeah, so probably the training plan, and and you can talk about what grants you're applying for. You should talk about what grants you're applying for, but or personal statement, or I mean, there's multiple places, and even in the environment, you could talk about what support you have in your environment to conduct this research. But multiple times, you should make clear that this is actual research that will happen. This is not proposed study. That's one of the common mistakes I see a lot in LRP applications, is they write the proposed study will assess. It's not a proposed study. They're not funding the study, right? So it is actual work that you will be doing over the next 2 years, and that you have the support available to be able to conduct it. Which, keep in mind, I know a lot of us are on like hard money positions, so you may not think about it as much. One of the main things they're evaluating is that you have 50% support to do the research, because that's the most expensive thing. The most expensive thing is, like, if you don't have a grant to pay your time, how are you going to do it? So make sure they know that your department is paying for 50% of your time to conduct research, that you have that guaranteed support, that you have a reduced teaching load, or whatever it is, to make sure that you have, and then, because research can be done with relatively small funds if salary isn't an issue, right? So if you can use online public data, or the data is going to be collected within the next year, and then I'm going to be analyzing it for 2 years, writing papers off of it, whatever it is. But yes, good question. Okay, so again, the LRP does not fund your research. It only goes towards paying your debt. It goes directly to your loan provider. So the Department of Education does like a wire transfer to your loan provider. So you're not a middleman at all. They actually cover the taxes on it too, which is really impressive. So you end up needing to pay a little bit more in taxes each year. So be aware of that, because it is considered taxable income. But it's not as if, like, if the money went to you and you had to pay taxes on it, and then it would be 39% less, right? So this is like a pre-tax payment, because it goes directly to your loan provider. They're not putting it in your account where you have to pay taxes and then it goes there. But it is considered a taxable income. So at the end of the year, you may owe a little bit more on taxes. Just be aware of that, or talk to a CPA. I'm not a CPA, so talk to a CPA if you need more clarification on how that works. Okay, and then again, as I mentioned, don't reinvent the wheel. Use a grant proposal that you already have. Use the research project that's already been funded, or in the process of getting funded. Don't come up with a whole new project. A few common mistakes is submitting as independent without established track record, as I mentioned. Oh, not communicating during transitions. So once you submit your proposal, you're not going to hear back for a while. So the timeline is, you submit it in November. They'll email you in January to ask if you know that you're moving institutions. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't. But then the applications get reviewed like February, March. They start doing financial reviews in like April, and then you find out in like May, June, if you got awarded. So if you are transitioning during that review process, let them know. It does not affect your evaluation of it, unless you're moving to somewhere that would make you ineligible for it. Like if you're moving outside of a nonprofit institution, or, or you're moving to a teaching institution where you can't do 50% research. If you're moving to another position where you're still eligible, it will not hurt your eligibility, but they need to have that verification of employment. And if they contact your current institution for verification of employment, and your current institution said, oh, her last day is next week or something, they need to be able to contact the next place to verify your employment, or your application will be withdrawn. So make sure you communicate if you are moving during the application at any point. And then once you actually do move, you need to do a change of institution application, which I'm also happy to share if anyone wants. I've done it twice now. And the main thing there is just to confirm eligibility, that your new institution is still putting you on the trajectory to do everything you propose to do. If you need to change your research study, you can. But the change of application is a pretty simple process, and it doesn't go for external review. The program officer reviews and approves it. So it's pretty simple for change of institution. Okay, don't be creative, just follow the template. And then the other common mistake is not telling them what they need to know. So they need to know you have protected time for research. They need to know you have what it takes to get an R01. They need to know that you know what NIH grant writing looks like, right? They need to know that you have a supportive institution, that you're going to be a successful researcher, that your research is important and impactful, and that it's aligned with the IC priorities, and that other people also believe in you. Like that's what they're looking for. So give them the information they need to evaluate you. Read the instructions carefully. They change every year. Plan ahead. Go through, look at all of the online application, get everything in order, ready to submit. Proofread, try to keep it simple, no jargon, complete sentences, right? Get an external reviewer to look it over. And don't be too hard on yourself. Have someone else take a look at it. You're probably worse on yourself than somebody else is. And then again, send your specific aims and your bio sketch to a program officer, ideally multiple, and see who's responding to you. And right now, again, during the shutdown, no one's going to respond, but hopefully it's over soon and we have enough time to get feedback from program officers. Some things to consider. I'm getting towards the end and I'll show you guys the website, and then we can also have plenty of Q&A or like specific questions for anyone. Highlight the strength of your environment, whatever that strength may be. Maybe you're not at like a really high impact research university, but your university is known for doing really great community engaged research, right? Then highlight that. Like, I'm at this university for this reason, because we're really good at this thing. Like we have a reputation for this. This is what we're good at. What maybe you're not at a high impact institution and maybe it's not known for community engagement, but you have a really supportive department chair that's really excited about you becoming the first established researcher in the department or something, right? Like whatever the strength is about your institution, highlight it in your environment section of something that you have going really well for you there. And then as I mentioned before, so LRP awardees are 50% more likely to get another NIH grant. And again, it's not that the LRP makes you more competitive for the next grant, it's that they're only giving LRPs to people who look competitive for it up front, right? So you need to convince them that you are going to be an NIH investigator. Talk about the next grant that you're submitting and how your current project gets you closer to that, and how this burden of student loan debt could hinder your trajectory, right? If you don't get an LRP, you may have to teach more, or don't say it negatively, say it on the positive side, right? So getting the LRP would allow me to not teach in the summer and just focus on my research, which is going to get me closer to my goal, right? I'm not going to have to pick up an extra job or whatever it is to pay my student loans. LRP is setting me up to reach my full potential as an NIH researcher. Like this is, relieving me. It's going to allow me to buy a house where I can really invest in staying at my institution, right? Like there's a benefit to doing the LRP that's going to make you more competitive in your career. Okay, yeah. So when you start the application, you'll get automated emails, read them. You'll have the link that you need to send to your letter writers in the automated email. Discuss what you're planning to submit. Some of this is redundant. I kind of put in multiple places, which is a grant writing tip also, right? You have to put it in multiple places. Someone might miss it if it's only in one section. So talk about where your relationship with your mentors, becoming your co-investigators or MPIs, right, as you're moving through. The deadline is November 20th. Submit early. Everyone I know who's tried to submit on the due date says like it's just like uploading for like an hour. Like it just takes forever. Everyone's in the system at once. It's crashed multiple years on the due date. And there's people at like 11 o'clock at night trying to get their document uploaded because they've been waiting 3 hours for it to upload. So submit at least the day early, but if you can get it in a few days early, you won't be like in tears at 11 o'clock at night waiting for something to upload on time. They do not take late applications. Like the system just will not take a late application. So don't put yourself in that situation. Again, get examples of awarded application. This is a formula. It's not plagiarism. Like, we really don't be creative. This is not the time to be creative. And then this is my email address. So please, and again, as Monica mentioned, all the documents are in the shared folder. I think my most recent change of institution isn't in there, but I will add that so that you can see what those look like, or I'll put in my new documents. At this point, like I said, I have like 6 different document times that I've submitted for different things. So wherever phase you're at in LRP, I've probably done it now, except for the independent. I haven't had to do that. So, but I'm happy to get an example from someone who is independent if we need it. So let me also bring up, and also still happy to do Q&A and any specifics, but I want to bring up the website. So this is the LRP website. I have these links in there, and I can also, but if you just Google NIH LRP, you'll find these. But this is the timeline that I was mentioning, right? So you'll submit in November 20th. It'll get reviewed February through May. Financial review, when you get a request for financial review, they'll want all of your loan documents from your loan provider. You may need something related to employment, like offer letter or something like that. And as long as you're communicating with them back and forth, if you need an extension, they'll give it to you. So like I've had a friend that needed more time to get the documents from her loan provider, and the LRP office was like, upload what you have so we can get started with it. And then if you need more time, you can get more time. So don't be freaked out too much because they say like you must submit within the next 2 weeks. That is true, but just communicate with them and they'll give you more time if you need to request more documents. Okay. And then this one is like just information that you need for each part of the application process. These like explain all the different types, categories. So you do need to pick a category and an institute. So those are 2 different things. So, and if you're doing the health disparities research, you don't have to submit to NIMHD. So I have a health disparities research LRP through NCCIH, the Center for Complementary Integrated Health. So there are multiple ICs that fund different types of these research. So talk to the program officer, make sure that they support that type. But just because you're doing health disparity research doesn't mean you have to go to NIMHD. So, and same with like pediatric research. You could be doing pediatric research and go to any institute. You don't have to go to NCHID or in NICHD. So it's kind of a mix and match of these. This is the instructions. This is a PDF for the instructions that talk about each section of the application, what should be included in there, including the online forms that you have to, and the information you need to put in the online forms. So really read through the PDF very carefully, make sure you have everything. And then let me see if I can move this. This is the page I was talking about, notice of NIH policy change. And this is not just for NIH or not just for LRP, this is for everything. So you should have this page kind of bookmarked somewhere. This tells you everything, all the changes that happen at NIH. So like we have the issue of government shutdown, what to expect during government shutdown. We have like, you know, changes in those that were doing international research, they put a change to that recently. So all of that's in here. Changes for allowable costs for animals, right? Like, so this is just the NIH page. Whenever something happens, changes, they put a notice here. So this is a good page to just have flagged. This is the one that they said about the lapse and that there won't be anyone available to take your calls while we're in the shutdown. So, okay, so that's all I had prepared. I'll stop sharing here, and then any discussions, questions, anything you want to talk more about?
I just really want to emphasize again, I don't know if you saw my chat, but I've watched some webinars from the NIH about this and read more than I can even want to admit to. And this has been much more helpful than any of those things. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And this has been like my life for the last 6 years. I've been kind of obsessed with it and like helping everyone go through it. So I've watched like 25 applications go through pretty carefully. Tiffany. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this
Oh,
question.
go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, all my previous work has been structural racism and like all the no words and no focus.
Mhm.
Do you have thoughts or recommendations on how to still make myself look productive
Mhm.
but like I can't actually, like I'm scared to talk about my work because I don't want to, like my project that I'm actually submitting is scrubbed clean, but like
Mhm.
if I talk about any of my history, they gonna know. So
Mhm.
like, how do
Mhm.
I navigate
Yeah, so I had I had an admin that was trying to clean my bio sketch, and I'm like, you can't. Those are the titles of my papers. You can't just take out discrimination, racism from the title of my, like the name of my lab is health equity, which I think is still like okay. It's kind of in that like middle way. So I would just, and you're thinking like bio sketch specifically or like personal statement or
No,
where?
yeah, I know I can't clean the bio sketch. It is what it is. I'm thinking personal statement specifically.
Yeah, so one of the things that, and I don't know if this will be applicable, but one of the ways that I talk about discrimination and racism now is I just put it within the broader category of stress, like the additional stress that individuals are facing. So, and I have expertise. I've been studying this stress, right? Or even like culture seems to be like kind of again, like I'm kind of bordering that. So you could say, like cultural stress. You could say racial stress if you don't say racism, right? So I kind of just lighten it, but I still claim to be the expert that I was before. I'm just an expert on a broader category than this like very specific thing that I used to claim expertise in. So, and then say in the bio sketch also, in the paragraph where I explain the research, I've broadened that language a little bit. So like I talk more about like community, not just like culture, but community more broadly. I was telling some people in Michigan last month that the biggest change was instead of migrant farm workers, we have commuting agricultural workforce, right? Like, so there are like some synonyms that you can come up with, but I think stress, speaking of stress broadly instead of racism and discrimination, can be helpful.
So I've been doing that. So thank you. Thank you for that. So I've been doing that. My question relates to the focus population. So the funder that I mentioned earlier had me go in and change the title, change the abstract. So instead of Black women, it just says emerging adults, which is a little bit wider of a population. And some of my stuff is emerging adults, but for this project, it was supposed to be specifically Black women. So I'm wondering for LRP and even thinking about my IRB here. So I'm just curious what people think. Should I, from a safer standpoint, should I also have emerging adults or young adults there and pull, even though my recruitment here in Philly will target,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's what I've been told. So over summer, I talked to the director for NIAAA, one of the centers. He was at a conference, and his whole like keynote was on like health for all, which really sounded like an all lives matter analogy, which was kind of annoying that he didn't realize he was saying that. But it like that's what he was like, health for all. Like we don't need to focus on specific groups. And then when I had talked to him after, and like, you know how expensive it would be if I had to have like such a broad inclusion criteria, but then I'm only analyzing data for one subgroup. Because he also said that. He's like, there's no one stopping you from doing subgroup analysis after you have the data. I'm like, like it would be impossible for me to just, everyone's eligible and I only look at this group. And he's like, well, where are you at? And I had said, like Southwest rural. And he's like, most of the people you are going to collect anyways are going to fit the group you're interested in looking at. Just your inclusion exclusion criteria shouldn't be based on race, ethnicity, or gender or identity, like a marginalized identity. Yeah, that's the advice I got. I don't know if anyone else has other advice. Yeah. And Tiffany, I'm happy to take a look at your document and see if I have any recommendations for like changing wording or like lightening it more if you want to send it to me. And then I know some things are just like super specific. You're like, I don't know if that's going to work until I write it out. I don't know if that'll work.
Yeah, no, I would definitely appreciate it because I'm just like, I don't know. I'm struggling to think about how to position, like how to describe my work and the impact of my work and whatever if I can't talk about my work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Tiffany, was your mentor now Hagiwara?
Yeah.
She might be really helpful to talk with about that because
Okay.
I'm sure she has run up against the same thing.
Okay.
Are you still, I mean, I'm sure she would be happy to hear from you if I can also reconnect you if that would be helpful.
Well, yeah, I'll see. I can send
Okay.
an email
Yeah.
and see how it goes, and I can follow back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, she's at a different institution now than she was when she was my mentor, so
Yeah.
I might not have her new email.
I can send you her new email also.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would just close with really take advantage of all the MIWI resources, like go through the funded applications, you know, and send around for peer review to each other, right? Whatever we can do to look at it, then, you know, let us know. Good.
Thank
Okay.
you so much, Tara.
Yeah, happy to help. And then if anything comes up, just let me know.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.